So just another quick note about this video. The content editor role created in this video is now included with Drupal. Improvements like this are one of the reasons why I am dedicated to Drupal. It is always progressing. Anyway, since the content editor role is now provided, feel free to substitute the role you create as you wish. Some suggestions are provided. Okay, enough from me. Let's go. One of the most basic features of administrating user website permissions with Drupal is through the creation of roles. Rather than assigning individual permissions to each user, permissions are assigned to roles, and roles are then assigned to users. Using roles gives administrators greater control over permissions and makes it easy to assign and remove roles when necessary. Permissions let you control what users can do on your site. Each user role has its own set of permissions. For example, you could give users classified as administrators permission to administer nodes, but deny this power to ordinary authenticated users. You can use permissions to reveal new features to privileged users, such as editing content, for example. Permissions allow trusted users to share the administrative burden of running a busy site. Permissions given to the authenticated user role are inherited to all the other roles and logged in users, except the anonymous user role. If you assign a permission to the anonymous user role, that permission is not inherited by other roles. For example, if you give the anonymous user role the permission to post comments, it does not mean that the authenticated user role also gains permission to post comments. Yet, if you give the authenticated user role permission to post comments, it does mean that the other roles you have created will automatically gain that permission. Roles allow you to fine-tune the security and administration of a Drupal site. A role defines a group of users that have certain privileges as defined in user permissions. Examples of user roles include anonymous user, authenticated user, content editor, administrator, and so on. So back on the Waterfall Handbook Drupal site, go ahead and do this with me now. And in the admin toolbar, hover over people and then click on roles. Here we can see the default Drupal roles, the anonymous user role, the authenticated user role, and the administrator role. We are going to add a new role called content editor. So click on add role and type the role name of content editor. Oops, and when it's spelled correctly, click save. Brilliant. Now look, by default, new roles are usually added to the bottom of the role list. And this does affect how the roles are presented once we get over to the permissions tab. So I like to order the roles in cascading order of greater permissions. So for example, the authenticated user has less permissions than the content editor, which has less permissions than the administrator. When you're ready and you're comfortable with the order of the roles, click Save. Next, let's click on the Permissions tab. You can also get to this page by hovering over People in the Admin toolbar and then clicking on Permissions. Notice how the various roles are listed with checkboxes for each permission. What we are going to do is we are going to add permissions to the Content Editor role. And we're going to add permissions to allow Content Editor to edit and update and delete any media. And the same thing with content. And we're also going to give them access to the toolbar. So scroll down until you come to the section for media. Feel free to look at these various other permissions at your own leisure. Okay, so here we are at the media section, and notice how we can be very specific, right? We can allow content editors to create new audio, create new documents, create new images, remote videos, etc. And same thing with delete. However, if we scroll a little bit further down, you'll see permissions for create media, delete any media, delete own media, update any media, update own media. And these are what we are going to give to the general content editor. So I'll check create media for the content editor, delete any media, delete own media, update any media, update own media. And I'm also going to allow content editors to view all media revisions. Now notice here with this next permission, view media, the reason there's no checkbox next to content editor or administrator is because the authenticated user has a checkbox. And remember, by default, all other roles inherit the permissions of authenticated user. So for example, if I uncheck it, notice how the checkboxes appear for the other roles. I'll keep it as view media. Anyone on the site can view the media. Now the other permissions I want to give to the content editor is I want to allow access to the media overview. So I'll check that for content editor. Now what I will not do for the content editor is give them administration permissions to administer media and administer media types. This I feel should be given to site administrators as it is. Fantastic. So that concludes giving media permissions to the content editor role. Again, we could be specific per media type. However, we're going down to the more general permissions of create media, delete any media, etc. And we're giving those to the content editor role. Next, let's keep scrolling further down to the node. And what we're going to do here is we are going to allow content editors to create new content, delete content. But in this case, we do need to check every single checkbox because there's no all-encompassing create all, delete all content, for example. So go ahead and check every permission under the node section for the content editor. I'm also going to allow content editors to revert revisions. Nope. Now one thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to allow content editors to administer content types. This means to create new content types and modify the fields. So I'm going to not select administer content types, but I am going to give content editors the ability to bypass content access controls and again, delete all revisions, revert all revisions, view revisions, and I'll allow them to view their own unpublished content. Great. So this finishes up giving the node permissions to the content editor roles. Again, the permissions are every node permission except for administer content types. The final permission we're going to give to the content editor is the toolbar, which gives them access to the admin toolbar up here. So scroll down until you find the toolbar section. You could also Control F to find it, or Command F. So toolbar, use the toolbar. Let's give that to the content editors. And when we're finished, scroll all the way to the bottom and click Save Permissions. Well done. You have given media, node, and toolbar permissions to the content editor role. This concludes this video. So in summary, what we have done is we have created a new role called the content editor, and we have reordered the content editor role to be placed after the authenticated user role, but before the administrator role. And then after we have created the role, we went to permissions, and we have given media, we have given the permission to create, edit, update, and delete media items to the content editor role with these permissions here. We did the same thing with node permissions. So content editors can create articles, basic pages, waterfalls, etc. And then just so content editors have access to the toolbar, we have given content editors the permission to use the toolbar. Make sure to save permissions. Well done. I'll see you on the next video.